Today, I have the pleasure of sharing several gardens of distinctions that are each unique, filled with beauty, and full of family memories. Welcome to Southern Heirlooms. I'm Ken Rivenbark.
Welcome to Southern Heirlooms with Ken Rivenbark.
Southern gardens are a reflection of personal taste. It may be an extension of the architect of one's home, a dream of one's imagination, a well-executed design from century-old gardens of Europe, or a plain old backyard. Yet it lives. It's not an inanimate object. Gardens are a rare gift, one that people have the occasion to plan, design, prune and nourish, and enjoy an actual living environment. Even in the tiniest backyard, one has evolved in the relationship with the earth itself that allows us to convene with nature. Gardens invite us to be a part of their lives, to meditate, to read, watch our children run and play, and literally shows us the smallest perfections that is the vastness of our Creator. When we return, we're going to be visiting some exquisite gardens and be joined by horticulturist Harvey Cotton. Stay with us.
The answer to all your car buying questions.
Now in the hands of every salesperson at your North Alabama Honda dealer.
Saving you lots of time.
Folks love the Accord. How many to choose from?
48 today.
Pick your favorite color and trim level.
Best price?
$199 a month.
Compare it to a Camry.
Take a look.
Gas mileage?
Up to 36 miles per gallon.
That's one giant leap in car sales technology.
And it's only at your North Alabama Honda dealer, Huntsville, Decatur, and Florence.
Welcome back to Southern Heirlooms. I'm Ken Rivenbark. I'm joined today with Harvey Cotton, horticulturist extraordinaire, and actually Harvey was chief horticulturist for the Huntsville Botanical Gardens for 22 years. Harvey, welcome.
I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you for sharing your time and your expertise, and we're going to be looking at several gardens today, and I welcome your input. And what fascinates me is all the different styles of gardens we have here in the South.
Well, most definitely. And it, of course, patterns from the influences of the owners of the home. Mm-hmm. We live in a climate and environment here where many plants thrive. So we can grow things from all over the world. And it's really the influences of the architecture of the house that will often influence the garden itself. And of course, many garden styles that will flow into one particular overall garden pattern.
I think that's amazing. We're going to start by looking at a formal garden. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Harvey, we're standing in this beautiful French formal garden. Let's start with a basic question. What makes this a formal garden?
Well, the easy answer is symmetry. Okay. Formality breeds symmetry, and we always things that are matched and paired. We have a central axis, so they're all based on axial arrangements. We have this beautiful fountain in the background that's the focal point in the very center of the garden design itself. And then lastly, we all think of formality here, especially in the South, clipped hedges, and especially with the use of boxwood. Since the home is a French country estate, this is a great example that came out of the French School of Landscape Architecture back in the late 1700s of what we call a parterre garden, or now we would just say a formal clipped garden.
Okay, great. Let's talk about some of the actual elements. You've mentioned those, and so let's show our viewers what you're talking about.
Well, first and foremost, the boxwood are center stage, and we have the upright growing American box that's been clipped into a cone-shaped pattern, and then below it, the dwarf English box that creates the parterre. We even see the arrangement of the fleur-de-lis here in the center. Now, many times we think of these clipped hedges filled with flowers, but the true parterre gardens in France were just using the evergreen box material without the use of flowers, and we see that in this particular garden. And then for the strong vertical elements, we have the hollies both in a conical shape with the Foster holly here, and then of course the poodle form that we see in this area, and that gives that sense of order that we've created
now,
in this
still
form.
Considered a topiary?
Yes, topiary is just a form of pruning where we're trying to make plants change them from their natural growth habit.
Great. It's just exquisite. I love how everything is so manicured and perfection.
You know, part of that was trying to bring order from chaos, which was the countryside, and it was man's dominance over nature.
I think that we can clearly say they succeeded.
Yes.
We've taken a step out of the formal garden into another section. It's still the formal garden, but this is called the armillary garden.
Yeah, correct. And that's one thing they did is they broke the garden up into different compartments. Now, what we would say today is garden rooms. That's the term we use a lot, but it's the same thing. They've
Great.
compartmentalized the garden, and we've got an entryway, we've got a change in elevation, but the basic layout is still the same as a very formal garden, and this, of course, is the focal point in this garden where the fountain played that role in the past garden.
And this is a armillary sphere, and it's an early astronomical tool to measure the heavens. And actually, it was the placement of the stars, the longitude, latitude was all used in this type of sphere. It's very gorgeous, and it makes for a gorgeous centerpiece.
And things like sundials, spheres of this nature were always parts of garden ornamentation, and it was a way to talk about other aspects as the plantings were its accompaniments around it.
And I think it's very southern. At the end of the garden is this beautiful bronze statue. It's La Brisa, and it represents a celebration of the wind. And I think with the greenery, the La Brisa, it adds a wonderful southern element.
And places for us to sit and contemplate the garden throughout and make you feel enclosed, which all garden rooms want to do. Give us that sense of enclosure.
Great. Harvey, we're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at some more garden rooms. So please stay with us.
There's nothing like seeing it for yourself. Inline Lighting has an impressive showroom near you, where you can see everything from gorgeous traditional classics to the most contemporary styles. Our certified lighting specialists are educated to help you find the perfect fixture for any space. Love your current lighting but want to save energy? We can help you there too. Inline Lighting, always open at inlinelighting.com.
Welcome back to Southern Heirlooms. I'm Ken Rivenbark. I'm here with Harvey Cotton, and we're talking about gardens today from the South. We're in a formal French garden, but there's a little surprise, Harvey. Walking through here, would not expect that directly behind us is a secret garden. Let's take a look. Harvey, we're standing in the secret garden. It has a totally different look than the formal French garden. The owner wanted to create a place where she comes for devotion and meditation, a quiet place to read, and I think this is incredible. Let's tell our viewers what's here.
Well, it is true that she wanted a place to get away from everything else, and we were in the very formal garden, which is not a place that really brings you quiet, meditative feeling. It's very formal and rigid, structured, and if we think about that time where we want to kind of get away and not think about those things, we don't want that rigidity. So this little space, hidden from the rest of the garden, only she really knows where it is a wonderful spot to come in and reflect and meditate. And it does quiet and soothe the soul as you're looking around. Green is the predominant color, which is very soothing. A little bit of color added with the hydrangeas, but also the foliage texture we'll see with the aucuba and the hosta is a great way to brighten up a very shady spot.
Okay, and one thing I like to point out, you know, in the South, gardens have to conform to their environment. And if you look behind us, there's mountains. So this garden was actually cut out of the mountain.
And again, you can see the wall to kind of create the garden room and even separate this very manicured garden, the whole garden itself, from the wild that was this natural element behind us.
Absolutely. One other element I want to point out is this wonderful Japanese gong. And this was a gift to the owner's husband on a birthday. And I'm going to step over here, and I want to just let you hear how beautiful this sounds. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, the other thing I love about this is, again, we've been talking about a very French garden. Well, how many French gardens do you find a Japanese element like this? And it shows how the owner's style reflects what they want within their garden. This was very important to them. It was a symbolic gift, and that's important to her as she sits here and meditates and reflects.
One last thing, I think, when we're talking about gardens having rooms, when you walk into this secret garden, the temperature changes. It's like walking into a room of a house.
It really is.
So it's really fascinating.
And you've got, with rooms, you have walls, you have floor. Here we've got a different pattern on the floor than what we had in the formal garden.
And the ceiling of the trees.
The ceiling of the trees that's above us that really gives us that enclosure.
Harvey, there's several more rooms of this garden, Let's go take a look. Next garden I want to share with you is an English garden. Harvey, we've transitioned from French and we're moving into the English, and they've done that very creatively. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's still another garden room. We've had a great transition area, a change in elevation, and we've stepped down. We still have some elements of the formality with the boxwood that we see next to us, and again, we still have sculpture as part of a focal point within the garden.
Right, and this is autumn for the from the four seasons. Yes.
But the thing, what do we notice the most here? We see color.
Color.
It's the first time we've really seen a lot of color. And the English gardeners loved mixed perennial borders, which had perennial flowering plants as well as annual plants. And behind us, we're surrounded by zinnias and marigolds.
So these could be cut?
These could be cut and brought inside. That's one thing with gardening we love to share, and we love to have things that we could take from the outside in and to share with our neighbors and others that are around.
Okay. Let's tell our viewers what we're looking at.
Well, lots of things. One of the things that sticks out the most are the zinnias.
Let's step out of the way here.
And we have a wonderful bedding zinnia here called the Profusion series. And one thing we love about this is it does not get powdery mildew, which is so prevalent in the South.
Harvey, we've moved down to the end of the English garden. We're standing in front of this beautiful bed of lavender, and we're surrounded by incredible plants. I'm going to lead it up. You got to tell me what they are.
I will, but you mentioned the lavender. So what does lavender bring in but fragrance? And as much as we love eyes looking at plants, we also love the fragrance and what that evokes in our
And
memories.
this could be dried.
This could be dried and again brought inside. The other thing that we see here are plants that are not yet in flower, and a great characteristic of an English perennial border is going to be transition. This is loose-neck goosestrife that's going to flower in July and August. Back in the corner is one of my favorite native southern plants put in an English border called Joe Pye weed. It's going to bloom in August and September.
What's that bloom going to look like?
It's a big, beautiful pink mop head that sticks out.
Really?
And one of the things that's so important about it is that it is a food source for the monarch butterfly. So as we're thinking about our pollinator friends, the garden is a great source of food for them as well. So I love having the Joe Pye weed in any garden that we put in.
So it has sort of like a butterfly garden built in.
Within. It attracts all our native pollinators.
Great.
But that's what's great about these floral English perennial borders is transition throughout the season. Everything is not in bloom at one time. So we come out a month or two later and we see something else.
Okay.
And that's what's great about gardening is there's a surprise around every corner.
Absolutely. It's not native to our area, but we see this a lot in the South. Tell me about this plant.
The digitalis or foxglove that comes
Foxglove.
out, and that's what's wonderful to have as those come into play. And of course, that's where many of our medicines come from. The heart medication, digitalis, comes from the plant.
Now, I didn't know that. That's great to know. We'll be right back.
Established in 1978, Randy Roper Interiors is the premier interior design firm for residential and commercial projects. The goal at Randy Roper Interiors is to work with each client to create a beautiful, warm, and comfortable space that reflects your individual tastes. Randy Roper Interiors offers one of the largest resource design libraries in Alabama and is located at 311 North Jefferson Street in downtown Huntsville. Randy Roper Interiors, where experience matters. To say you've worked too hard to let this economy jeopardize your future would be an understatement. While you don't have control over today's markets, you do have control over how well prepared you are for the future. That's where the Keene Group at UBS Financial Services Incorporated in Huntsville can help. Wealth management advisors Penny and Tom Keene will create a plan that can help you weather the uncertain markets while keeping you on track. Call or visit our website, the Keene Group at UBS Financial Services Incorporated in Huntsville. Member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to Southern Heirlooms. I'm Ken Rivenbark along with Harvey Cotton. Today on Southern Heirlooms, we're visiting Southern Gardens. We've moved to a new location, and Harvey, this is just beautiful. This is a good example where we're standing of how outdoor space is an extension of the indoor space.
And that's what's so great about being in the South is that we actually can be outside all 12 months out of the year at some time. Yes, it gets hot in the summer, but there are nights that are fairly cool or early mornings. Even in January and February, we have some very mild, normal days that we can be outside. And so it really is, our gardens become an extension of the home, and it blurs those lines between outside and inside.
I think it's so beautiful, and it adds so much Southern charm. This garden is different. I call this a backyard garden, and that may not be the proper term, but what would you call it?
Well, let's think about it. The scale we were at earlier with the large French garden, all of a sudden everyone can't do that, and that's a much larger space. Here we're in a much more intimate setting, and we want to make sure that all of this space is used. And you'll see as we go through, spaces for children, spaces again for contemplation. We hear sound in the background with the water feature. We're out here where we would entertain. So all
Exactly.
those elements are played within the garden itself.
Harvey, let's take a look at some of the elements of this magnificent garden.
Fantastic.
Nearly every southern garden has some type of water feature, and here we're standing in front of this beautiful fountain. Harvey, let's talk about how this is constructed.
Yeah, it's a little bit unique, and as you say, water is such an important element in the South because of how hot it is. We need that cooling effect. And typically we see fountains like this sitting over a pool where water stands. What I love about this one is it's almost like the big spring effect, where water
It
is kind
is.
of going back down into the earth. It's a grotto or a dry creek bed. And look at how the moss is growing on this natural stone.
Beautiful.
I think it's wonderfully done and is unique because we don't see that in many other garden elements. And one thing we love to do within our gardens is make them unique to us. And I think this is done very, very well.
Absolutely. And in all southern gardens, green is the feature, but they've added this beautiful color with the begonias.
Right. Always you're going to see green as the prevailing color. And all around us, the walls of this garden room, green predominates. But look here with this color, the reds and whites. This is very much a hot color within this shady garden, which really makes it stand out and pop.
Okay, I have the honor of walking by here every morning. I love these trees, so just tell us about the cedars.
It is just a fantastic large growing evergreen. It's what we call a needle evergreen. It's a cryptomeria. And what's wonderful is that it's a huge growing shrub, really makes a bold statement. But because of the needle-like leaves, it's very fine in texture. So it's a different juxtaposition of large, massive growing, but fine textured. And I really think that's
And if
a
you
great
get the
element.
right angle with the sun shining through it, it's like an artist's palette. We're now standing in a different part of the garden in front of this children's playhouse. And Harvey, in a southern garden, we were talking, you were saying that there's three elements.
Well, three things seem to always come up. One are the people. It's their home, their reflection of their style, their hospitality. Another are the plants, the ones that we always think of as being southern, azaleas and camellias. And then the third is tradition or history, where architectural elements that could be brought in from the past. And this wonderful playhouse behind us is a replica of an older structure.
Absolutely.
That's
The current homeowner had this reconstructed from plans or pictures that were here, many years back. The homeowner also has grandchildren, so you can see this is a yard for children to play in and have fun. We have a little teddy bear tea party set up in front of us. What child wouldn't have a great time with
and
this?
I love this as a horticulturalist. There's nothing worse than to just have as a garden as ornamentation. We want people to be engaged and be outside and to be a part of the garden. And what she's done here is made sure her children are outside and engaged and a part of nature and the landscape.
Absolutely. And talking to different people about what are their childhood memories.
Yeah.
Many of them are in the gardens chasing fireflies, chasing butterflies. So it's being a part. And I think this replicates that so well.
Well, and that's so important today as our kids are in a wired world. We need to
Exactly.
get them outside and disengage from that and look at the green screen that's around them.
When I think of a southern garden, the first thing that comes to mind to me is crepe myrtles. And I love the structure of the wood, and it's so artistic. Here's a beautiful example behind us. Top that off with an angel sculpture, you've won my heart.
Well, crepe myrtle is often called the lilac of the South. It is a plant that grows extremely well here and actually was introduced to the colonies back in the 1700s. So while it's not native to the South, it's definitely found a home here. And
It
we could say
has.
it's
We love
naturalized.
it. Yeah.
And you're right, it's a plant I often call a four-season plant because it gives us four different looks throughout the year. So in the wintertime, we have that wonderful bark that we see and the architectural sculptural effect. We get the flowers in the summer, green foliage in the spring, and then fantastic fall color. So all 4 seasons of the year, it gives us a different look.
And in some of these southern gardens, especially in the evening, you see the uplighting, so it just magnifies it. The history of the area, beautiful plants, greens everywhere.
It all makes a garden.
It all makes a garden. It all makes a garden. We'll be right back.
Rivenbark & Roper Antiques began serving customers June 2006 and is regarded as Huntsville's finest antique gallery. The shop represents high-quality antiques from the 18th to the early 20th centuries, the largest collection of silver in North Alabama, Chinese and Japanese export porcelains, and original art from around the world. From day one, the business has focused on three principles that have established the essence of Rivenbark & Roper Antiques. They take great pride in providing their clients with the highest quality merchandise at the lowest prices possible, offering hospitality and personal service to build a relationship of trust, and to celebrate with customers the joy of bringing beauty, style, and elegance to their homes. Rivenbark & Roper Antiques has gained the reputation of offering a high-quality product with extensive personal service. The shop has lived by the strict policy of not selling reproduction furniture and abiding by the original guidelines of not selling furniture newer than 1940. Their strengths are reflected in their dedicated customers. Customers know that when they engage in business with Rivenbark & Roper, they can count on truth, knowledgeable information, and customer dedication.
We're standing in front of this beautiful patio. You can see it extends from the home. It's a great example of how in the South we're able to take our living outside.
Yeah, blurring those lines between inside and out, being able to extend the entertaining space to come outside and enjoy. We've got the shade from the trees that are here. We hear the water feature in the background, which kind of is soothing us a bit on a hot day like we're seeing.
Absolutely.
And then surrounded by green.
This homeowner has also brought color to the patio in these incredible animal containers, and I think that's such a special touch.
Well, in container gardening is one of those great elements that we have to put color wherever we want it. We don't necessarily have to have a space of soil around. We're able to move these around wherever we need a touch of color. That was
That's okay.
wherever we need that, and can change that out with the seasons. The Italians were kind of the first that brought in container gardening into our culture and our landscapes.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got one more section of this garden we're going to take a look at, and it's the largest, one of the most beautiful hydrangea bushes I've ever seen. Come with us. I wasn't lying when I said I want to show you a beautiful Annabelle hydrangea bush. This is one of the most incredible. The size of the blooms, it's just perfection.
It's one of my favorite plants, and it is one of our native hydrangeas. It is one that was native to almost the whole eastern half of the United States. But the species really doesn't have as beautiful a flower as this, and it shows us what happens in nature with just a little bit of diversity gets into the genetic pool. They found this plant in Illinois, and they named it Annabelle for the owner of the home, the garden that it was growing in.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Come visit the Little Green Store on Montesano Mountain. The Little Green Store carries art, ceramics, jewelry, and gift items representing the work of over 100 artists and artisans. Every piece is American-made, and most of the art showcases the creative pulse and energy of Huntsville and North Alabama. Engage with your community and give local artists a voice when you purchase local, high-quality, and environmentally friendly art and design. The friendly staff at the Little Green Store is eager to assist you in finding special and unique gifts for every occasion. The Little Green Store on Montesano Mountain.
Welcome back to Southern Heirlooms. I'm Ken Rivenbark, again with Harvey Cotton. We have moved to another garden. This time, Harvey, we're in a walled garden, a green garden, shade garden.
Not a very large garden,
And a very
but it has
small
lots
garden.
of elements in there that we can all appreciate and enjoy. Again, inviting the inside out and being able to enjoy being outside in the garden, entertaining, resting, meditating,
Exactly.
all of that.
A couple elements that, it has some formal elements with the structure. It's grown through the years. And another characteristic of Southern Gardens is passing along plants. And this homeowner's father grew all of these boxwoods some 50 years ago.
Well, I do think that's a great element of something in the South. We do love to share things, whether it's with our neighbors, but even more so generation to generation. And we use the term pass along plants has been done, propagating something for future generations to come. Boxwood is a very wonderful thing to do in that regard. The original boxwoods at Williamsburg, they've been replicated and continued to thrive because of that going on.
Exactly. And we have a lot of boxwoods, as we've mentioned. I was asking earlier, are they native to the South?
It's
and you
interesting,
said?
boxwood are not native to the United States. They were brought over by the Dutch and the English in the 1600s. Colonial Williamsburg is full of box. New Amsterdam, which was New York, was settled by the Dutch. They brought over box there. We call it American boxwood, even though it is not native here, but it's definitely been around since the 1600s. And we would always think of it in a southern garden of having boxwood as one of those elements.
Okay, and when I first moved to Huntsville, so boxwoods, Jackson vines, and Annabelles. That's a southern garden.
Well, I often say, I was thinking of the same thing. I think of azaleas, gardenias, camellias, and hydrangea. You said Annabelle, that's one of the hydrangeas. We also have the mop heads, which are the pink and blues, and the oak leaf hydrangea, which is one of our native plants that we see within gardens. And you're right, of having those elements or plants that do say southern.
I agree. I don't want to leave this garden without saying that it was designed by Bill Nance. And Bill Nance was a garden designer here in Huntsville. We lost him a few years back, but if you go down through this area, his spirit lives on in these gardens.
Without a doubt. And at first, Bill, to me, he was an artist, and he painted pictures. And what he did with his landscapes is he painted a landscape and then saw the composition that he wanted there. So from an artistic element, there's none that can compete with him. He also was a classicist. He loved the formal geometric patterns that we see in classical architecture and classical landscape architecture. We see that reflected in many of the gardens that he designed.
Harvey, I'd like to say thank you for being with us today. Your expertise is so informative, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate it. You've had an element that I could not have done, and I really appreciate you being with us.
It was my pleasure, and it was great to see these wonderful gardens and landscapes within our own backyards here in Huntsville.
Absolutely. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The following advertisement is proudly sponsored by Moss Lumber Company of Gurley, Alabama. A New Leash on Life helps thousands of homeless animals each year find a forever home. Our main purpose is to end the euthanasia of wonderful adoptable pets in our community. Your support is greatly needed to carry out our mission. Opportunities are available to volunteer in the facility, foster a loving animal, donate to meet the financial needs of these animals, and shop in our marketplace thrift store. Visit us today. A New Leash on Life needs you. Hope you've enjoyed the show today and felt the flavor of how special Southern gardens are. I wish to close with a poem by Alain Chamar called Advice from a Tree. It states, "Dear friend, stand tall and proud, sink your roots deeply into the earth, reflect the light of a greater source, think long term, go out on a limb, remember your place among all things living, feel the wind and the sun, and delight in their presence. Look up at the moon that shines down upon you, and the mystery of the stars at night. Seek nourishment from the good things in life, simple pleasures, earth, fresh air, light. Be content with your natural beauty. Drink plenty of water. Let your limbs sway and dance in the breeze. Be flexible and remember your roots. And enjoy the view." With a heart full of gratitude, I'm Ken Rivenbark.